Hey there, busy mama. Think you can't homestead because it requires full-time hours? Well, today in this video, I'm going to explain to you how I keep my homestead running in under an hour a day. Homesteading can be a lot of work, and depending on what animals you have, how big your homestead is going to look different for every single person. So, while I'm here to give you tips and tricks, remember that not every single person's homestead is going to be set up like mine, and it may take them longer time or less time depending on what kind of chores they have to do every day, whether it's in the morning, during the day, or in the evening. I work full time as a lab assistant in my local urgent care town. I do 410, so that gives me 3 days off to get my major stuff done on the weekend. And during that time, I make sure to set myself up for success during the week. So, working a 10-hour shift, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to come home and want to do chores or to spend a lot of time with your kids and doing dinner and whatnot. So I have systems in place to make it easier for me, and I split them up into different sections. Now, when I started creating these habits, I made sure to kind of time block them so it was easier for me to get things done during certain points of the day. So, for instance, I'm going to kind of run through my morning routine. So, I get up however early I want to make sure I have like me time, whether I want to meditate, do yoga, work out, walk on the treadmill, just sit and watch the news and drink my coffee. That's my me time. No one's awake yet. My husband's already off at work. And then my chores take me less than 20 minutes to do every morning, as long as I follow my normal routine and I have everything set up. So I go out and I deal with whatever animals aren't on pasture. So we do rotate them. We just kidded. So there are times when we don't have certain animals out on pasture for them to free range. So I do have to supplement them with alfalfa or grass hay or whatever. So between the pigs, cows, and goats, depending on where they're at in their season and what time of season it is for me, sometimes I have to go out and feed them. Now, also remember that the seasons will look different for chore time. In the winter, it's going to significantly take me more time to do chores than it does right now in the summertime, because I'm going to be having to deal with frozen water troughs and making sure that all my animals are being kept warm, and it just takes me a little bit longer to cart water out and make sure nothing's frozen, my lines aren't frozen, the auto waters and all that fun jazz. Anyways, so after all the big animals are taken care of, I personally am set up on an irrigation. So I have to go down and clean my filters and my pumps and go manually turn on my irrigation so I can get the sprinklers going. Now, while I'm walking by all the animals to walk down to the canal to do that, I am checking to make sure that the auto waterers are filling up their trough appropriately. I'm making sure that the pig pen has a mud hole in it so they have somewhere to cool off during the really hot summer day. I'm making sure my sprinklers are on my pasture. I'm not just going down to the pasture. I'm being very observant of all my other animals and making sure they're taken care of while I'm doing that. And that saves me time from having to walk back up. Oh yeah, I forgot they need a mud bath, or oh dang, I don't know if they have water. I have to go back up and do that. That saves me significantly a lot of time just being observant of everybody and doing kind of like a well check on them, if you will. So after all that's taken care of, I don't really do anything with the garden in the morning. If I have extra time and I want to, that's kind of more like me time. That's my personal time. I'm going out and spending time in the garden. I'm taking pictures of my pretty flowers. I'm looking to see that all of my plants are healthy and growing, or pinning them up if I need to, or whatever else. And then I'm off to my aviary. Now I call it my aviary because I have a multitude of different birds in there. There's only over 50 birds in there, whether they're ducks, chickens, turkeys, and they're all in different stages of life. I have several different coops set up in there. I have turkeys that I will be butchering in a few months. I have turkeys that I keep for pets or for laying. I have chickens for laying. I have butchered chickens. My daughter has her chickens out there. And so while I call it the aviary, there are, let's see here, there's like 6 different coops in the aviary. So there's lots of waters to fill up, lots of foods to fill up. So what I do though is I separate things out. So in the morning, the only thing I have to do is just kind of do like a well check. Just double check that everything, all their waterers are full, especially in the heat of the summer. You need to make sure that they have access to water at all times. And then I'm just scooping and dumping feed. It's just a dump and go in all of their containers, whether I'm fermenting it or if it's dry feed. I like to ferment my feed because it saves a little bit. If that makes sense, it expands and it makes it easier for the birds to absorb the nutrition. Now, I can't do that all the time. Like in the winter time, it'll freeze before they can eat it, so I can't do it. And when it's super, super hot, it'll mold and get really nasty before they can eat it. So it's really hit or miss if I'm fermenting my feed or not. But my point is that I make it ready and accessible like the day before, the weekend before. I make sure everything is lined up for me, and all I have to do is just do it. I'm not having to go and get food bags out of my truck. I'm not having to go find hay bales and load them under, the lean-to for the animals. Like, I'm making sure everything is lined up where it needs to be. So it makes it really easy for me to be successful in the morning. And that's pretty much it for my morning. Like, I just have to go through, I know I just named off so many things that I have to do in the morning. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. But it doesn't take me more than 20 minutes because I have systems in place that make it easy for me to succeed. And so I'm just bing, bang, bang. Now, if I go out into the aviary and somehow I have an injured animal or someone's stuck somewhere, then yeah, that's going to take me a little bit more time. But my day-to-day routine is pretty cut and dry and simple. I know exactly what needs done. I do the same thing every single morning, so it's easy and it's fast for me to do. Like I said, I work a 10-hour shift. So after all my chores are done, I'm off inside to eat breakfast or finish getting ready, and I am off to work. Now, for the evening, by the time I get home, my husband is usually home. I do a lot of meal prep, so it makes it easy for us just to grab things out of the fridge and warm it up, or I have all of our proteins ready, so all we have to do is like cook some rice or, cut some veggies, prepare a salad to go with dinner, and a lot of times he will help me out with that. But if he is busy or if he is still at work, then I just do what I can. It makes it my kids are older, so I don't have to personally bathe them. It makes it easier for me. And so you're really going to have to, I've already said that you have to make this work for your homestead and your lifestyle, and everyone's homestead is going to look a little bit different. Me personally, I am milking my goats right now because they've kidded in the last few months, and I've been experimenting with their goat milk. I like drinking goat milk in my coffee. I've made goat cheese before. I cannot make butter. It's not fatty enough, but I've kind of been experimenting with it. The more I've been homesteading, the more it's every few months. I'm like, okay, how can I make this so I don't have to buy it from the store? How can I stop buying this from the store? And right now that's cheese. Right now I'm trying to figure out how I can not buy cheese from the store anymore. So I'm milking my goats, making it into cheese, and trying to utilize that resource to my benefit. And so milking the goats takes 20 minutes of my time on its own. And that's usually the first thing I do when I get home, because they will be screaming when I get home. The goats are so darn needy. They scream for no reasons and every reason all at the same time, but they will be screaming when I get home. So that is the first thing I do. I come in, say hi to everyone, see how everyone's day was, start getting my goat basket ready. I have like a whole basket that I just take outside with me, and I go get the goats taken care of, and then they're done. Usually by this time, my kids are kind of all over the place. I have two 16-year-olds and a 13-year-old. So half the time my 16-year-olds aren't home, but I can go through and kind of say hi to everyone, and I'll make sure dinner is like up and going, or if my husband's home, he can do it for me. And then I am off to do the rest of my chores. Now, the rest of my chores usually, go through and I fill up all the waterers at the end of the day in the aviary. I go through like all the duck pools. I dump them, rinse them every single day, make sure all the waters are topped off. I don't usually have to fill up the chicken waters every single day. They usually last a few days, but I still go through and check them because I don't ever want them to run out. They don't have thumbs. It's my responsibility to make sure that they have water and food and that they're being taken care of. So I don't ever want them to be out of things. I go through and feed them again. I feed them in the morning and at night. That's just my preference. Everyone does it a little bit different. I make sure that my garden is watered. And while I'm making sure it's watered, I go through and harvest. So I go through and I check my irrigation lines, make sure everything's been watered. I can tell by looking at the soil, feeling the soil, that everything's been watered. And if it hasn't been, then I can kind of check for clogs. I generally don't have to worry about that. This whole season has only happened one time, and it wasn't even clogged. The tube just like came out. I probably tripped over it and didn't realize that I had knocked it off kilter. And so I had to go through and fix that, but no big deal. And I only have a few plants that I have to manually water. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going through and harvesting. I take my little basket out there and do that all at the same time. And so, and once again, that probably seems like a lot. It's really not, because I do it all the time. You know, I have everything down to a science. It takes me so long to milk the goats, and with it being summertime, I have a lot more daylight left. So by the time, you know, we're eating dinner, it's generally about 7:30, and I'm relaxing by 8 o'clock, and I can kind of have my own me time, hang out with my family, do whatever, and then it's off to bed and do the same thing all over again. Having those auto timers definitely saves me a lot of time, and I highly suggest trying to automate as many chores as you possibly can to make it easier on you. I also, like I said, I batch things together. So like if things are in the same area of my property, then I will go through and do everything in that section of the property at the same time. And that also saves me time. On the weekend, I have to go through and do like the bigger things, cleaning out the coops, and the pens, scooping poop, whatever it may be, doing the compost. And then I just make sure that I'm set up for the week. And that helps a lot of things go smoother throughout my work days. It makes everything so much faster. As I've built these habits, these things have become easier for me. So at first, it definitely won't take you just 20 minutes until you get everything down to a science and a routine. And then as you are progressing in your homestead journey and you're adding things on, it will also, you know, add some time on. But after you figure out how to automate certain things and kind of group things together, it'll be a lot faster. So just because you have kids and just because you work full time does not mean that you can't homestead. I do all of my chores in less than an hour a day, and you can too.